Hey guys, welcome back to the second episode of this mental health series, and we still have Ruth with us. Hi, say hi, Ruth.
Hello.
So last week we had a very interesting conversation about how I feel very negative about my body image in general, and I also learned about this cute journaling tool where it can change the way I think about myself and hence kind of like allow myself to live life more positively instead of being overwhelmed by my negative thoughts about my body. And it's all thanks to Ruth.
You're welcome.
So today we are going to have more conversation like this. So today I'm very excited because I want to talk about a topic that is actually very close to my heart. For those of you who are not as familiar with me, is that, even though I appear to be very confident, but actually I struggle so much with self-doubt and also low self-worth. I mean, I'm generally very happy, but I also struggle a lot when I'm alone and I have a lot of negative thoughts and I also spiral sometimes.
Sure.
That's why I want to learn, actually. I want to learn from you how I can feel more confident in my own skin, actually.
Right.
Because confidence is something that I think is so important, something that actually keep me functioning.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who are listening to this as well. I think confidence allowed people to show up as themselves, which I struggle so much when I was younger. These days, a bit better. But of course, also I think it takes confidence and courage to chase after my ambition.
Yes.
Or to even just think about what I want in my life.
Correct.
Like what I want in my partner, what I want in my future.
Yeah.
And to be very honest, struggling with low self-worth, low confidence, and low self-esteem, I constantly think that I'm not good enough. Sometimes in my head, right, like before things happen, I always think that the worst case scenario, the worst outcome, and I always think I don't deserve anything good in my life, and generally just feel very, very afraid to be hopeful.
Okay.
Because I expect myself to be rejected or expect myself to be disappointed.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can relate.
I can understand because I think having a skin condition can be very debilitating, and obviously having all these thoughts makes me feel like I don't deserve to chase all these things that you were talking about, right? And I think that the number one myth actually when you were talking is what I was thinking is that a lot of us always think that we need confidence to go out and do all these things, but in actuality it's the opposite. It's in the doing that we are gaining confidence and boosting our self-esteem to chase these things. So I think when you say, when I already think I don't deserve anything good, you're automatically going to disqualify yourself from even applying for that job or even putting yourself out there on this dating profile, right? So you're already disqualifying yourself before you've even started.
Yeah.
I think that's what low self-esteem and low self-confidence affects, right? And which leads to the feelings of hopelessness, right? So I think in exactly that, it's about breaking through that in the sense that, let's put it through the thought record sheet, right? Like if I fear this, I don't have confidence to do whatever, right? This thing, then what is the first action that I can do that is within my control to actually gain evidence whether this is doable or not?
Let's talk about one example.
Yes.
Very interesting you mentioned this because actually a lot of people with skin condition, I mean the visible ones, we do get job rejection quite often.
Okay.
But I also observe a lot of people with skin condition, they also got accepted by their current companies as well. So, okay, I think it reminds me that I need to focus on what I can do. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. What I can do, what are the possibilities for me? Sure, some possibilities may not open themselves for me. So like you said, some people got accepted to jobs, some people got rejected by the jobs. Is it maybe because you didn't explain maybe the skin condition? So I don't know, maybe some of them they think like, oh, it's an infectious disease or whatever. But if I were to be confident in like, okay, explaining my disease to them, this is what it is, this is what it isn't, that could give your employers confidence in hiring you as well, because it's not something that maybe I need to be super concerned about having an employee with a skin condition.
What you're saying is it's important for me to focus on what I can do and also to clearly know what it is and what it isn't.
Exactly. Because there's so much misconception around having a skin condition. Some people could think that it's infectious. Therefore, they are just going to action based on their own beliefs about what it is, right? So then it is in my control to then tell them what it is versus what it isn't. Then the ball is in their court about whether or not they want to accept me based on my skills.
And I think in a lot of situations, we always let the worst outcome paralyze us.
Correct.
So what you're saying is we need to focus on the next step of action that we can actually do
Yes.
and focus on what we can control.
Yes.
So
Yes.
taking a more proactive role in doing our best in the current situation,
Yes.
but also let go of the expectation of the outcome.
Correct, because when we are so outcome focused, like you said, it paralyzes us and we just don't take action. We disqualify ourselves even from the beginning. But if we just focus on just a small next step within my control, and the next small step within my control, and the next small step within my control, can you imagine how much your self-esteem and how your self-confidence can grow as well? And, to do bigger things or chase after things that you want for yourself.
So timely because I'm also starting a new project. And I think this is a very, very good reminder. There's also one thing that come to my mind.
Yes.
Someone told me before, maybe I came across this on social media. This quote, it goes by, do not say no to yourself unless somebody say it. Because a lot of what actually happens in our lives is actually we are the first person who say no to ourselves before anyone else.
Yes.
And that actually, before anything could happen, we already say no lah. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You just stay home and let life remain the same. But what you are suggesting is actually really step by step putting myself out there and to cultivate the courage, cultivate the confidence, cultivate a little bit of resilience over
Yes.
the journey.
Yes. Curiosity.
Yeah.
Cultivate curiosity for what life could bring.
That sounds so beautiful. But Ruth, understanding it is one thing.
Yes.
Doing it is another, And I still find myself in a lot of moments where I don't feel like I deserve anything good in my life.
Yeah.
And it just seems that all my life is just about the skin condition. My skin condition dictates everything.
Correct.
My skin condition control everything because honestly, skin condition can be quite limiting.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't really want to use that word, but it's actually true. It can be very disabling. So skin condition can be debilitating. And sometimes on some days it can get really bad that we cannot get out of bed,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm just so overwhelmed with my skin.
Sure.
And I just assume, not to say I want to, but I equal myself to skin condition.
Correct.
I am my skin condition.
Right. So it's almost like you've made your skin condition your identity.
Yeah.
And that's hard to break out of, right? That's hard to feel. It's hard to feel hopeful when I am identifying myself, making it my whole identity, my skin condition, right? And I think that's exactly where it's important to really determine for yourself what your skin condition is and what it isn't. Sure, we all have limitations, whether or not I have a skin condition. That as humanly as possible, we will have limitations. But with skin conditions, we need to be very clear about what our skin condition is actually debilitating versus whether it really is or not. Because when you talk about going for jobs and stuff, if I already have the skills for it, and yes, I come with this skin condition, why do I then think that I will automatically be rejected for this? I haven't even given myself a chance, right? So I do need to, I think, separate for myself what my skin condition is versus isn't, so that I can focus on who I am as a person. What do I bring to the table besides just my skin condition? Am I a good employee? Am I a hard worker? Am I a loyal friend? All these are very big, valuable things that are important to a person's life as well, not just dictated by our skin condition. It can be our identity and our value to be a hard worker, for example.
Well, if I ask my friends to describe me, I don't think they will mention skin condition as a first point.
Correct.
How would you describe me?
I think I would describe you as a very open person, very vulnerable. I think maybe if I can even say very go-getter. Go-getter?
Good words.
Good.
Like getting opportunity to ask for compliments.
No, but exactly that, right? So if I have I take my identity as my skill sets or my values rather, or what I bring to the table, then and I focus on maybe the fact that I am a go-getter, that would motivate me to go for that job,
Yeah.
to go for that, I don't know, the next project that you were talking about, right? Rather than, I think, if I only focus on the fact that I have this debilitating skin condition, that I'm not going to do all that. I'm going to just stay in my room and not apply for that job, not put myself out on a dating profile.
So Ruth, beside going beyond who I am as a person, right? At the same time, I think I'm still dealing with a lot of fear. And all this fear is like a ball of heaviness that stopped me from moving on in my life.
Sure.
Like every step that I take, I always expect things will just not work out. All this fear of failures, fear of rejection. And I think maybe it relates a lot to my skin because a lot of the time when I was younger, to those moments where I felt like my life has just begun, my skin would flare up. And then it just felt like, I have to stop again.
Right.
So I think a lot of these flare-ups episode has really, it keeps telling me that to just stay put, to just stay small. So what can I do in this situation?
Right. So the problem about fear is, again, fear is a feeling. And it can be functional. It tells me not to go into a river so that a crocodile won't eat me, for example, right? But fear in this case, in the case that you've just given me, right, can be very limiting and it can make my world seem smaller and smaller and smaller. Yeah. So in your case, it's like, I'm not going to put myself out there. I'm not going to, because every time I put myself out there, I have a flare-up. But what I'm not focusing on is also, every time I have put myself out there, yes, I have a flare-up, but I have also survived that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And essentially, I think that is the important point about putting the fear through what we talked about last week, the journaling, right?
Yeah.
Putting that through the thought record sheet and really finding evidence of this fear. Sure, there is evidence that every time you put yourself out there, of course, I think a bit stressful, therefore leading to the flare-up, but also the fact that it was manageable or it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Because when I do focus on the fact that I put myself out there despite a flare-up, that breaks fear a little bit.
Yeah.
It breaks the room that fear has put me in. Now I'm in a bigger room and I can see a bit more possibilities in life. So I think when you talk about fear, that's exactly what we need to do. We need to break it open bit by bit.
Very interesting. It reminds me of a lot of steps that I've taken in order to just wear a bikini out to the beach. What I did in the beginning was I wore it together with my best friends in a villa.
Okay.
So it's a controlled environment,
Yes,
right?
safe environment.
Yeah, and then what happened was, then my friend was like, hey, let's go to the beach. I was very scared, but I felt more courageous with my friends around me because then, in case if anyone stare at me or anyone threw any comments at me, my friends would be able to kind of like ground me or protect me.
Correct.
And then I realized what gave me more courage after that was I realized that even when I was on the beach, I did not feel scared or like, actually nobody was staring at me and nobody came up to me.
And that is evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, right now you break it down, then I realize, oh, actually that's what happened.
Correct.
Because maybe a lot of people ask me, like, how do you have courage to wear bikini on the beach? But I don't really know how to explain to people.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's so important to really know for yourself the process of how you got there. Because I think, again, when I said we often magnify the negative and minimize the positive. So to you, maybe it's like, oh, yeah, I've gotten okay with wearing a bikini. It's a nothing much. But if we really were to really dive into it, that's exactly what you had to do. You had to break open and process the fear and ask yourself, is there evidence for it versus no evidence for it? And in your case, nobody was staring at you at the beach and all was fine. And then you probably went on to wear the bikini a bit more and more and more.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do.
Yeah, and that actually gave me more courage to just wear t-shirt in real life.
Okay.
Where people are closer to each other.
Yeah.
And even after a while, I just gotten used to people staring as also.
Yes.
Because I just don't find it that scary anymore actually.
Correct. So the fear for it has diminished because you've gone through the process of breaking the evidence for the fear over and over and over again. So to a point that maybe there's no evidence to be scared about people staring. I cannot control them. If they want to stare, so be it.
Yeah, and I think this process has also given me a lot of courage. So right now I'm at this point where even people stare at me, I don't really care to, because it speaks nothing about me but everything about that person. Wow, Ruth, I think our conversation today, it makes me feel more courageous actually. And I think a lot of community members, like people like us with skin condition, we want to be more courageous, but actually we don't know. We always see courage as like a big thing, like going out naked, not naked lah, just wear bikini, or like just tell people about our skin condition maybe. But it's like we have this goal that is like this high, and we are here, and we don't exactly know how to get there.
Right.
And I think this episode has kind of like built the staircase for us to execute the small steps, step by step, so that we can get to the point that we want for ourselves.
Yes.
And I think as we practice these small steps, it gives us even more courage to dream bigger, to have bigger goals. And that's how we slowly open up our life to a more fulfilling life, right? For people with skin condition, which can feel so limiting on most days. And I think it really feels like a light shining in our life, and then the courage of staircase is there to help us. So I really, really appreciate it so much for you being here, for having this conversation. So for the next episode, which is next week, we are still on this mental health series. We are going to talk about bad days. We all have bad days, right?
Yes.
So if you do have bad days, I think this is going to be very impactful conversation for both you and I. So we'll see you in the next one.